Morning, all. All right, so just the one game in the NHL tonight, so we got some news of the day for all you fine people as well. And it starts at 8 o'clock Eastern tonight, 5 o'clock Pacific, the New Jersey Devils and the Carolina Hurricanes. And that's it. Extra day off for the Vegas Edmonton series. And so, yeah, this is the only show in town, broadcast all across North America. And it's going to be an interesting one, too. So, looking at a couple of players to keep an eye on, Jack Hughes, 3 goals, 2 assists, 5 points. That's not much through 8 games for what you might expect for Hughes, but again, he's going to be getting keyed on in the playoffs in a way that he may not be used to. Carolina leading this series 1-0. Seth Jarvis has been prominent for them. He also has 3 goals, 2 assists, 5 points in the playoffs. And of course, the goaltending matchup, Anderson and right. So we'll see what New Jersey does when it comes to goaltending. I think you kind of have to come back with Schmid just because he got you here. But, I mean, in the last game, his numbers weren't great. However, you can also counter with, yeah, and he came back with a shutout the last time. So it'll be interesting to see who New Jersey goes with and how the series progresses from here. So coming out of last night's game between Florida and Toronto, there was the discussion about whether or not Bennett would be suspended for a cross-check on bunting. Keefe was upset after the game, and it is simply a case, I think, of a coach looking to get calls the next game. And so Bennett's been fined, and it is the maximum allowable, which means all the memes show up. But it is the maximum, and it's that's how the CBA's worked out. It does go into an NHLPA fund, the amount of fine money. Keep in mind though, players, their pay, like when you look at that, whether they have 4 million, 5 million, 6 million, they're all paid out. Like all the contracts are paid out during the regular season. There is money given to players in the playoffs. Depends on how far you go in said playoffs, but yeah, I mean 5 grand isn't much. That's the maximum allowable. But just throwing that out there. So we'll see what happens in the next game. Who goes in for Nyes, and we'll talk about Nyes in a moment here. So your Norris finalists, these were revealed yesterday as well. Fox, I'm wearing a Rangers jersey because I feel like Fox probably doesn't win, but he's had a very good year, and I'm glad he's top three. Carlson's very likely the winner. Personally, my vote would have gone to Makar, but that's me. It is odd to see a top three without Hedman in it, isn't it? It is really odd. I'm guessing there was probably vote splitting between him and Sergachev, where you could make the argument Sergachev might have been the better defenseman at points this year. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. There are a lot of snubs when you only have 3 Norris finalists and so many solid young defensemen in the NHL. It really feels like we're going through a renaissance when it comes to defensemen right now. Spoiled with really talented defensemen. Now, Ranger news. Patrick Kane is mulling over what he's going to do. There hasn't been word yet on whether or not he's going to get surgery. So there have been rumors out there for a long time that he has a hip bothering him. Now, hip surgery is tricky, and it depends on the nature of the hip surgery. But very often, players after they have hip surgery aren't the same either. So you have a player who's dealing with a hip problem. You want to see it get fixed. But very often, when you have hip surgery, you may be a less effective player and your career may be shortened as a result. So before he makes a decision on what he's going to do with his UFA status and what his next contract might look like, he has to decide on surgery first. The good news is Mott wants to re-sign. Tarasenko, it sounds like he's going to market, saying he has never gone to market before. He wants to see what all the hype's about. And I don't blame players. I really don't. I know fans get mad because players may not have the loyalty to stick around, but you may only get one chance to really cash in and get a big contract and to have guys, various GMs basically, bidding on your services. You may only get that one chance. And it I would imagine, is kind of fun to mull over what you're going to get and where you're going to go. So I do not blame players for going to market rather than signing with whichever team they've been with for probably 8-9 years at that point. I also want to say that as we get closer to Monday and as we get closer to the draft, Connor Bedard comparisons to McDavid and Crosby seem to be getting more and more common. And I feel like that scouts probably don't want to make that comparison because it puts a lot of pressure on Bedard. But the numbers speak for themselves. Bedard's numbers, ridiculous for a player at age 17. You can expect some of those numbers out of guys who are maybe overagers who stay in the junior ranks after they're drafted. So after they're older and more mature and they've added some weight. But Bedard, I mean, it just feels like this is the most hyped draft pick since McDavid, and people just don't necessarily want to say that. And I've seen people saying, well, there was a lot of hype around Lafreniere. Not like this. Lafreniere was seen as being NHL ready, likely to be a pretty solid top six forward who would be a top three, a number one winger or center, depending on how he was going to be developed. There was some debate about whether or not Lafreniere might be moved to the middle at some point. But yeah, Bedard comparisons to McDavid and Crosby are out there, and I've never seen this much hype since this channel came around. Austin Matthews' hype was really high, but I don't think it was as high as it's been for Bedard. So there's some discussion about whether or not he'd be a 30-goal scorer if he was in the NHL this past season, or whether he would be, 20, 25 goal scorer, maybe as high as 40. But he's seen as one of the best goal scorers, best 200-foot players. Just, yeah, a lot of hype. And so I will be doing a video. I'll be doing videos on the prospects once we know the draft order and getting into the prospects and which ones have the highest ceiling and who likely goes where. But yeah, Bedard will go number one. It's just a matter of who wins that draft lottery and wins the right to pick him. So I wanted to talk about this for a bit. I've been looking at this for the last day or two, and I thought about having a video specifically on this topic, and I thought, nah, it doesn't warrant just having a video on this topic. So a father and daughter have kind of become well known on the internet over these playoffs because in Toronto, first they're wearing Tampa Bay jerseys in the first round. Now they're wearing Florida jerseys, and it turns out that the dad's been teaching the daughter that basically the Leafs are the worst thing on planet Earth. He's a Habs fan. And I mean, on the one hand, I commend him for his commitment to his dislike of anything Maple Leafs. I don't think I could do that in that situation. I don't think I don't think it matters where. I don't think it matters which market I would be in. If I moved to any market, and yes, that includes Montreal, includes Pittsburgh, any team that I've ever talked about being at or near the bottom of teams I would even think about cheering for, I don't think I could do that. I don't think I'd have the stick-to-itiveness to just show up in opposing jerseys every single game. I could, but I don't think I would have the stick-to-itiveness for that. And it just I don't think I could enjoy that every game. I just don't think I could. I think I would, just living in that market, I would probably show up wearing, if it's Pittsburgh, I wear Penguins jersey, I wear Montreal jerseys to the Montreal games, unless they were playing against a team I cheered for. Now, if the argument here is, well, they cheer for everybody except Toronto, all right. But it just seems odd to me to be sitting around and just constantly cheering for the opposition. And I don't know that I would enjoy it that much, especially since Toronto had a really good home record this year. So I find it odd. This is definitely a 15 minutes of fame situation with these two. But yeah, I do find it odd. The closest I could get to that was there were times where I would wear my Montreal jersey in public before I had a channel. And, people would yell, oh, Montreal sucks. And I'd be like, yeah, you're right. Yeah, I'm a Bruins fan. Thanks. So that's as close. That's as close as I get. And that's in Chilliwack. That's not like, walking down the streets of Montreal or anything. Yeah, I think this team sucks. Look, I'm wearing their jersey. Anyways. But yeah, so let me know your thoughts. How do you feel about the idea of could you sit in an arena for a team in the NHL? Any team, any of them, and wear jerseys for every other team coming in and constantly cheer against them? And why? Why would you do that? Anyways, it was one of those things where I'm like, why? I see people saying that because he's a ticket broker, like somehow that's a sleazy kind of thing, but it feels like ticket brokering or scalping, however you want to call it. It doesn't have the same stigma that it did 20, 30 years ago. Scalpers were seen as basically the scourge of humanity back in the 80s and early 90s, I remember, and then they kind of did away with the rules against scalping, and it's not really a big deal. Like, if you go to a game in Vancouver, you're going to have them out there yelling, do you want tickets? I'm thinking, everybody here has tickets. Anyway, that's just me, I guess. So, coming also with Toronto news, concussion for Matthew Knies has been confirmed. He's out for at least games 3 and 4, and Sheldon Keefe saying wouldn't be surprised if he's out for the entire series. So, and I've seen the comments from some fans, I assume majority of them being Leaf fans online, about we got to take one of them out, and we've got to make sure that we go out there and hurt Bennett, and we got to go out there and hurt. And if you get caught trying to chase guys around and hurt them in the playoffs, you're probably going out. If you're not focused entirely on just defeating the other team and sending them home, you're probably going home. And it's not going to be easy, I would think, for the Leafs to go down to Florida and having the injuries they've got, and adding Nyes to that, and putting that out of mind probably won't be that easy, but they're going to have to. They're going to have to, because they have to win. I think they have to win both games in Florida. If they come home and they're down 3-1, I think the series is done. But I'm still seeing Florida being underrated by people online. That Florida had a really good second half to the season, and they came into the playoffs playing very, very well. And so, yeah, and they knocked off Boston. They were legit in knocking off Boston. All right. Other hockey news, at least hockey-related, hockey-adjacent news, is about the ongoing vote with the Arizona Coyotes. So Tempe has experienced 23.2% in terms of its turnout for this vote so far. 20,782 votes are in. And the town of Carefree, 49.69% of ballots have been returned, 1,627 from Carefree. And I don't know how those votes are going to fall. I don't know if a higher number means it's more likely to be a no or a yes. Because I have seen people on every political side arguing every possible way this should go or could go. And so we'll see. The deadline to receive and to get the election, done is May 16th. The signature curing deadline, I think, is May 19th is what I was reading. But they must be mailed by May the 9th. So you've got until Tuesday to mail it if you're in Tempe or if you're in Carefree. And so we'll know 2 weeks from now what the fate is then for that project. And what's next? Because there are some differing opinions on what's next for the Coyotes if this fails, and how quickly things could move if this vote fails. Basically, if the city of Tempe says, no, we don't want you here. Because the one thing I keep seeing is people from Tempe first going, well, then we just take it back to city council and we work out a different deal. The Coyotes won't work out a different deal. There isn't one. So if it goes back to city council, then you have to have a completely different setup altogether. And odds are that some of the stuff that the Coyotes are saying this will be paid for by us, like the cleanup of the site, wouldn't be paid for by whoever's developing the next time around. So we'll see how it turns out. So let me know your thoughts in the comments section below, as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through, you just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.